Ready to open the hood? UseTool for the tutorials.
And for car parts, the right idea is the Mr. Auto app. Easy, fast, and with better prices than on the website.
You can find the complete exhaust line from the easy-to-fit kit by Faurecia used in the video through the link in the description. Turn your engine off, pull up the handbrake, pull on the bonnet release lever and open the bonnet. Unplug the battery. To change the exhaust line on your vehicle, you will have to alternate between lifting the front and back ends. You can also completely lift it off the ground if you have the necessary equipment. We strongly suggest watching the tutorial, raising your vehicle safely before carrying out this step. A rusty, damaged or overused exhaust line can mean that your vehicle fails its MOT. It is therefore recommended to change these parts preventatively. On this vehicle, the exhaust line is in two parts. You will therefore have to separate the exhaust line after the exhaust muffler when replacing the muffler. On second-hand vehicles, it is possible that the link up between the line and the muffler has been soldered together. If this is the case, then you will have to cut the line when changing the exhaust muffler on the exact place that will make it possible to assemble the new elements without adaptation issues, but also to be able to remove the muffler. If your assembly is the original one, start by removing the clip that links the muffler to the exhaust line using a socket wrench and a 13mm socket. You can now undo the three silent blocks that hold the muffler in place. Use a screwdriver to stretch the rubber and then take them off the holding rod. The muffler is now free. You can remove it. Finalize the removal of the silent blocks. You now have to remove the second part of the line. Follow the exhaust line to the front of the vehicle and identify the lambda sensor, which is located just before the exhaust flange. First unplug the sensor, pushing down on the holding spur and pulling on it. You now have to unscrew the exhaust flange. Start by brushing the nuts on the flange. Then spray them with penetrating oil to make them easier to remove. Using a socket wrench, an extender and a 13mm socket, unscrew the three nuts which hold the flange in place. Pull on the flange to separate it from the catalytic converter. You can now turn your attention further down the line. Using a screwdriver, lever the silent blocks to remove them from their holding rods. The exhaust line is now free. Slide it backwards so that it leaves its housing. Using a cutter, remove the thermal seal on the catalytic converter, then brush the joint surface.
Please support us. Subscribe and like the video, that will be really cool.
Take the old line and using a 22mm spanner, unscrew the lambda sensor that you will later install on the new line. The easy-to-fit kits by Faurecia are split up in several parts, which makes it possible to assemble the entire exhaust line easily, safely and on your own without needing specific equipment. The kits come with all the accessories needed for assembly, adapted to the line in question. This means you do not have to worry about missing parts or compatibility issues which might stop you from completing the operation. Start by taking the tube on which you will have to install the two silent blocks. Grease the silent blocks to make them easier to install. And put them on the rods. You will have to force slightly when putting the new silent blocks in place, since they're brand new and you have to break the membrane. Take the exhaust flange part and start by screwing the lambda sensor back in with a 22mm spanner. Take the adapter sleeve to connect to the two pre-prepared elements, each marked with two blue lines on the sides. Then you have to bring together the two blue marks on the tubes and slide the adapter sleeve so that the center links up with the contact points between the two tubes. Once properly in position and using a 13mm spanner, screw the two nuts on the adapter sleeve, which will make it possible to create a complete seal. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Take the second adapter sleeve, which will make it possible to couple the last tube to the assembly on the side marked with a line. As with the previous actions, repeat the installation instructions for the sleeve. And finish off the tightening process with a torque wrench. You can now install the exhaust line. Slide the exhaust line into its housing and start by inserting the silent blocks on the rods. Once in place, take the heat seal and install it on the catalytic converter. Take the three nuts applied in the kit and put the flange in place on its housing. Finally, screw it back in. Finish off the tightening with a torque wrench. Reconnect the lambda sensor. Take the new muffler and the silent blocks applied in the easy-to-fit kit. Grease them to make them easier to install. And put them in place on the exhaust muffler. Slide the clamping clip supplied in the kit onto the muffler inlet. You can now install the muffler. Slide the muffler into its housing and slide it along the exhaust line. Then, while still holding everything, start by installing the silent blocks in such a way to be able to keep the muffler hanging during the subsequent actions. Once hanging from the three silent blocks, position the clamping clip near to the end of the tube and using a socket wrench and a 13mm socket, tighten the clamping clip. Finish off the tightening with the torque wrench. Assembling your new exhaust line is now complete. Check that there are no contact points between the exhaust line and the heat shield. You can now put your vehicle back on the ground. Reconnect the battery. Operation completed.
Hello, if this video helped you, like and subscribe.